Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're getting personal. We're diving into the economics of, well, you. We're going to piece together a model, step by step, to uncover the hidden logic behind every single choice you make, from your morning coffee to your biggest life decisions.
All right, let's just jump right in with a question that I think we've all wondered about. Think about your absolute favorite food. That very first bite, it's just amazing, right? The second one is still pretty great, but by the 10th, it's just not the same. Why is that? Well, that simple feeling is actually the key to unlocking the entire theory of how we choose things.
You know, economists have a special word for that feeling of satisfaction, that little bit of joy you get from something. They call it utility. And it's not about how useful something is in the normal sense. I mean, think about it. A dangerous drug could have a really high utility to an addict. It's purely about its power to satisfy a want. Anyone.
So as a consumer, your goal, whether you know it or not, is to get the most utility you possibly can from your choices. But to do that, you have to understand this one fundamental rule about how satisfaction works, a rule that totally explains why that first bite is always the best.
Yeah, I know. That quote from the famous economist Alfred Marshall sounds a little dense and academic. But trust me, it's describing something you already feel intuitively every single day. It just means the more you have of something, the less you appreciate getting one more. Let's see what that actually looks like with some numbers.
Okay, let's look at this table and just walk through it together. That first mango gives you this big boost of satisfaction, 10 utils of joy, let's call them. So your total utility is 10. Simple enough. Now look at the second mango. Your total utility goes up to 17, but that means that second mango only added 7 utils of new satisfaction. That extra little bit of joy from one more unit, that's what economists call marginal utility. And you can see it right there in that third column, just dropping from 10 to 7 to 4. And these two graphs, they show what's happening perfectly. Just look at the top curve for a second. That's your total utility, your overall happiness. See how it climbs, hits a peak around the fifth mango, and then it actually starts to fall. Now, if you want to know why, just look down at the bottom curve. That's the marginal utility from each extra mango. It's constantly going down, right? And by the sixth mango, it even goes negative. You're actually getting less happy from eating it. And that's exactly why your total happiness starts to go down.
So, this all boils down to our first crucial rule on this quest for satisfaction, the law of diminishing marginal utility. The more you have, the less you want just one more. This is the foundation for absolutely everything that comes next.
But of course, our choices aren't just about pure enjoyment, are they? Life has a pretty big obstacle built in: price. We can't have unlimited anything. So how in the world do we decide when something just isn't worth the cost anymore?
Okay, so let's compare the marginal utility you get from each shirt, that's the middle column, with the market price on the far right, which is just a steady 600 rupees. That first shirt, it gives you 700 rupees worth of joy for a 600 rupee price. That feels like a great deal. The second one is still worth it, but look what happens at the third shirt. The marginal utility is 600, exactly the same as the price. For any shirt after that, you're literally paying more than the satisfaction you're getting back. And this graph shows us the exact same idea, just visually. That downward sloping curve, that's your joy from each new shirt going down, down, down. That flat line is the price, which never changes. The magic happens right where they cross, at point E, for equilibrium. That's the sweet spot.
So here's the big takeaway. A perfectly rational consumer stops buying the second the marginal utility they get from the next item is exactly equal to its price. You buy up to the point where the extra joy equals the extra cost, and you don't go one step further.
Okay, so we've figured out how to make the perfect choice when we're just buying one thing. But life is way more complex. We have a limited budget, and we have to choose between so many different things. This brings us to the final boss, juggling all of our wants with the cold, hard reality of our wallet.
To solve this puzzle, economists imagine creating a sort of map of your happiness. This map is drawn with something called an indifference curve. Just think of it as a line that connects all the different combinations of two things, let's say food and clothing, that would make you equally happy. You'd be totally indifferent between any point on that line.
So for example, just look at this curve. Any point on it gives you the exact same level of total satisfaction. You'd be just as happy with 1 unit of food and 10 units of clothing as you would with, say, 2 units of food and 7 units of clothing. You're indifferent between those options.
All right, so we've mapped the dream. Now we have to map what you can actually afford. This is a lot simpler. It's called the budget line.
And it's just a straight line showing all the combinations of food and clothing you could possibly buy if you spent your entire budget. It is your wallet's hard limit.
And now we put it all together. To maximize your happiness, the goal is simple. Get to the highest, most satisfying happiness curve you possibly can, without ever crossing over your budget line. You want the most happiness your money can possibly buy.
The solution to this puzzle actually has a specific name. The best possible choice is that one single point where your budget line just barely kisses the highest possible happiness curve you can reach. Economists call this the tangency point. That specific mix of stuff is the one that gives you the absolute maximum satisfaction for your money.
So there you have it. We started with a simple observation about the first bite of food, and we've built this powerful model that explains how a rational person makes the perfect choice every single time. But, and this is a big but, it all rests on a few key assumptions about us.
You see, this whole framework assumes that we are all perfectly rational little calculators, that our tastes never change, that we always want more of a good thing, and that we can easily compare any combination of goods out there. I mean, does that really sound like you all the time? Yeah, probably not.
So why does any of this matter? Because this model of the rational consumer is the perfect baseline. It gives us a blueprint for what a perfectly logical choice is supposed to look like. And by understanding that blueprint, we can start to see all the fascinating, complex, and wonderfully human ways that we stray from it, because of emotion, or bias, or just plain old habit. This model of rational choice is really the essential starting point for the entire field of behavioral economics, which explores why we make the choices we actually make. It helps us understand not just how we should choose, but how and why we do.